You who have seen the wars, you who have seen the depression, you who have struggled, who have been some places and fallen down and stood up, you who know life better than me, need to come to me or to any other young person, by which I mean someone under 60, and say, I like you. You can do that. And that's a blessing you can give every day. And it won't cost you a penny because, like love, it's a timeless debt. It will never be expunged, and yet you have boundless stores of which to give. How often have we put old people in the position of feeling like they have nothing to give? Well, you can give praise every day, and it matters to a world that is hungry for people to tell them that they are good and noble and true and trying. You can do that, and it can make a huge difference. A second one is to bless. And that's different from praising. A blessing is when you give someone permission to go and do something. When you stand behind them and cheer, you go, girl. I'm right behind you, kid. That's a blessing. And you can do that. I think we have impoverished and immobilized our elders by saying they depend upon us to get things done. I think it's exactly the opposite. The young need the old to propel them forward. We need you behind us, pushing us. Go do that. Go ahead. I'm there. That's what a blessing is. It is a mission to get something done because we who are young don't know what the blazes we're doing. We're confused. We have no idea. And you can say, well, you know, when I did that, I screwed it up too. Maybe you'll get it right. I'm behind you 100%. To praise and to bless. And the third duty, the third tax, the third spiritual discipline of age is to remember. And I don't mean sitting around with each other talking about high school or the war. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not what I mean. Remembering means many things. It's more than being sentimental in storytelling, although that truly is important. I want to call you back to what the meaning of the word remember is. It literally means to reassemble, to remember, as in we each have members like limbs, and we put them back together. To remember is to reconstruct the past, to reconnect it, to connect it to the present. Now I'm going to ask you a question. This is a profound question, and I'm doing it 3 minutes before 12, so I'm not going to answer this question. Is existence just one moment after another, just one experience after another? Anyone remembers Rosanna Dana knows that's a question she asked all the time. Is it little bits like pixels? Is it just a dot and a dash and a dot and a dash like the Morse code? Or is reality a single fabric, a whole thing that we only grasp one bit at a time? I think it's the latter. Ralph Waldo Emerson said God knew that we would be overcome by the idea of eternity, so he chopped it up into days and hours and minutes. I'm truly of that mind that eternity is too big for us to grasp, so we mark it off in days and hours and years, and that's how we put things on our gravestones. But we are all alive in the same reality that George Washington was in, and Abraham Lincoln, and Thucydides and Jesus. So you who have been around for a little more of that reality, pull us into that connection. You connect the rest of us. You remember us into reality. Do you understand what I'm saying? You literally connect the fabric of reality. That's what remembering is. And now I'm going to give you an example from what I call a geezer in training. That's me. Tonight, this evening, is Erev Yom HaShoah, the beginning of the Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is the 27th of Nisan. It's when we are all called upon to remember the Holocaust. I don't remember it. But when I was in 8th grade, my homeroom teacher was a German woman named Gabriele Bruch. She taught French and German. She knew English beautifully. one Sunday, I saw her at my church. That's very disturbing to a student, by the way. But because I did, I felt emboldened to talk with her after class, since we'd seen each other socially, as it were. And she invited me to help her clean up as she was cleaning up that day. And so she said, "Here, let's clean the blackboards." And so she gave me the erasers, and she took one and she rolled up her sleeves, and on her arm was a tattoo of numbers. Within the next 10 years, the tattoos will be gone. There will be no one left who really remembers. And when the world forgets what it does it again. The duty of memory is to save us, we young fools, from the stupidity of our own arrogance. I don't remember the Holocaust, but I remember Gabriela Bruch. I remember Dr. Aaron Lerner, who was a doctor in the army, and who was one of the first to go through the gates of Birkenau. I buried him. I remember men and women who served in the armed forces. And it had just dawned on me this year that now I have a duty to remember. There's a story in the Hasidic tradition that the Baal Shem Tov, a great mystic Jewish leader, whenever Israel, the Jews, were threatened, would go into the forest and build a special fire and say a special prayer, and the Holy One would look down and save the Jews. But of course, the Baal Shem Tov was not immortal. And so when he died, there was yet another threat, and one of his disciples didn't know exactly where to go in the forest, and so built the fire in his fireplace, but he did know the prayer, and God understood how things happened, and so saved the Jews again. And then he died, and yet another affliction came upon the Jews, and so the third person didn't even know the prayer, just built the fire and said, "God, do something," and God did. And then that disciple, the fourth one, saw the Jews under affliction and threat again, and looked up at the sky. Where else does one look? Maybe down, and says, "I know there's a place in the forest. I know there's a fire. I don't know the prayer. So I'm just going to recite the letters of the alphabet and hope that's enough." And it was. Because you see, the disciple was the fire. He remembered enough to keep the flame lit. Oh, my blessed elders, you who are the ages of my parents and my aunts and uncles, you're the fire. And if I could kindle you to life, I would do it in a moment. Because I don't know how to make the fire, and I don't know the place in the forest, but maybe you can teach us all the prayer. We're looking to you to lead us. So please, show us the way. Show us how to be the elders we have to become, so that we can save the world when our day comes. May these words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart